Hi, students. Are you on? I know I can't hear you, but I just want to welcome any of you that are on. I'm so glad you came to hear this discussion with some of San Francisco's finest designers. I think this is a great opportunity for you. I'm really, really excited you're here, and we'll be just starting in a few minutes. And if you have questions, we have people ready and willing to take your questions from the chat room. The speakers will be able to see your questions also, and they can incorporate some of your questions into their answers. So stand by, we'll be live in just a few minutes.
I don't see my screen kind of changed.
What's up?
I got it. Okay, got it. My screen kind of changed, so I was kind of like curious. I only see Antonio.
Well, I think once they take us off standby, they'll put us all up.
Got it. Okay.
And then if you're giving more than like a yes or no answer, if you're kind of talking about something, your face will come up and you'll be on the screen, and then it'll fade back in as you conclude your answer.
Okay.
Okay, we do hear your radio very slightly in the background.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, you're live.
Welcome to our San Francisco Designer All-Star Roundtable discussion. I am Kay Evans, Vice President of the School of Interior Architecture and Design at the Academy of Art University. I take full responsibility for naming this elite group Designer All-Stars because in my estimation, after over 50 years in the design industry, that is exactly what they are. The common denominator between the four of them is that they all graduated from the Academy of Art University, and their design careers are based in the San Francisco Bay Area. They arrived in San Francisco from many different areas: the Ukraine, Brazil, the Philippines, and many other locations along the way. But their paths ultimately led them to San Francisco and this wonderfully unique urban university where they studied their love of design and ultimately decided to make this their home. In the many years I've lived in San Francisco and been fully involved in the design community, and it is a community, I have come to know these designers extremely well. They are truly elite designers who are respected by their peers and reflect the best that San Francisco design has to offer. I'd like to introduce them to you. And due to time restraints, I will dispense with long introductions and let their work briefly speak to you instead. Antonio Martins.
Oh, what you doing?
Yoy Tran. John De La Cruz. And Lena Baranova. Heather Hilliard, one of our original panelists, was called yesterday with a family medical issue. So Lena has gracefully stepped in at the last minute to offer her insights to our panel. Lena is a senior designer with Nicole Hollis, and her work is shown on that website for those who would like to take a look. So Lena, thank you so much for responding to our call for help at the last minute.
My pleasure.
I think a good way to start is to tell us where you are from originally, what your background is in relationship to art and design. So Antonio, I'll start with you, as I know you were born in Portugal, raised in Brazil, studied in Switzerland, worked in Italy, Germany, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Mendoza, Chicago, Tokyo, et cetera, et cetera. So you start and tell us, does this reflect you as a designer?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. So my name is Antonio and I was born in Portugal, and in '74 there was a little revolution in Portugal and my family moved to Brazil. So I was actually raised in Brazil, in Rio. My dream was always to be a designer. Unfortunately, good boys from Catholic families back then could not be designers. And that I did economics at the Catholic University in Rio. And I started working at the Meridian Hotel, which led me to drop economics and do hospitality. So I went to Switzerland, where I did a degree in hospitality, hotel management. And from there, I worked for Hyatt International for 11 years. A little bit everywhere from Italy to mainly based in Hong Kong in Asia for 11 years. It came to a moment that, okay, now I don't need my parents' permission anymore. I have my own money. So I decided to go back to school. I resigned from Hyatt International. My last position was based in Chicago. And I had the option between going to San Francisco, coming to San Francisco for the academy, or going to New York for Pratt Institute. And here I am, San Francisco. So I did the master's in interior design and architecture. I graduated in 2004. And then right after, I opened my own business. I wanted to work for other people. I didn't get the job, including Kay Evans, who didn't give me a job back then, where she worked for Ed Hardy. And I started my own business in 2005, and here I am.
Thank you. I would have hired you. You know that. I followed you anywhere.
You didn't
So,
hire me.
Joy, what do you think?
About Antonio or about me?
Well, both.
I can't follow after that, Antonio. Oh my gosh. So where do I start?
Get your start. And
Yes,
where are you from?
I was born in Vietnam. Came as in 1975. I was 9 years old, and I always had the passion for art, like painting, drawing. Even in class, I was, instead of in Vietnam, because you always have to do pen and ink calligraphy, but instead of doing my calligraphy, I was drawing birds and, just flowers and flora and fauna. So I was always interested in. So I was, so for as a young age, I wanted to be an artist. And at the age of 16, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. So I dropped out of high school to pursue the life of a dancer. So I danced professionally as a ballet, modern, jazz, hip hop, at the eventually ballroom. I danced with the San Francisco Ballroom Dance Theater for a number of years. So that was my first passion. And then at some point I realized, okay, I have to have a second career, because as a dancer, you have a limited time. It's a very short career. So I thought, okay, what can I go into that I can, have a second option. So I went to the academy, thought I was going to fashion design, maybe graphic, maybe fashion. Fashion was my first choice. And then stumbled into interior design. I thought, okay, if it doesn't work out in San Francisco, I'll move to New York. Similar, I wasn't thinking about Pratt Institute, but I thought, okay, if San Francisco doesn't work, then I'll move to New York City. So of course, academy, worked out for us, for me, yes. So, and then I met my partner, Vernon Applegate, about 22 years ago, and he was working for a big firm in here in San Francisco, Tucker & Marks. And then when we got together, we decided to start, we're life partners, and then we decided to have our own firm. So, and that's, here we are now.
So I'll go into this, your partnership with Vernon in a few minutes, but I just have to say that to the envy of everyone, that we were at a party a couple of years ago, you and I, that one of the showrooms gave, and they played some swing dancing, and we ended up dancing.
Susan Hughes.
It was so much fun dancing with this fellow who can dance. I danced with Antonio that night too. So I don't know where you were. Oh, don't do that to me. We were swing dancing, and Antonio and I were like sambaing a bit. So it was the best fun. So John, where were you at that party? And tell us about you and where you're from.
Oh, I was traveling. I was working, and I'm sad I missed that party for sure. But I was born and raised in San Francisco. My parents came from the Philippines, and I remember growing up and looking at those Academy of Art buses, just going back and forth all over San Francisco while I was going to school. So it was kind of always a part of, it was always in my crosshairs to figure out how to get to art school. Out of high school, I actually went to study biology at UC Santa Cruz because I thought I wanted to save the planet. It was that time. But then I took a chemistry class and I realized there was a lot more math than just inches and feet. And I said, no. So I came running back to the San Francisco Bay Area. And like Joy, I studied fashion first, then I went into graphic design. And then I finally ended up in interior design because I love to draw and I love to shop, and interior design, interior architecture was just the perfect union of the two. And there was just enough math for me to feel like I was doing something constructive without actually having to do something with the quadratic equation or any sort of higher algebra that I didn't love. But yeah, and I went the slow route. I was in the Academy of Art for a very long time because I was also working in restaurants at the time, and also interning in a company called Heller Design that would do financial institutions and private offices. So I was a receptionist and a librarian working for a design company in the morning. Then I would go to school in the afternoon, and then I would work at night in a restaurant. And that's when I figured doing restaurant design would be something that would be a fantastic use of all of my experience.
Mhm. So I'll get to Alina in 1 minute, but I just wanted to follow up because I may forget to ask that. So the school does make it possible for you to be able to take classes whenever you can, because they offer classes at night and during the day, right?
No, sure. Yeah. And I got a lot of my liberal arts classes out of the way when I was in UC Santa Cruz. So that when I came back here, I could really just pick and choose the classes that I could take at the time, that I could absorb and concentrate while I was doing all the other things that I was doing. So.
Okay. And Lena, tell us about you. What was your route here?
Well, number one, I'm honored to be part of this panel. Listening to biographies of everyone just makes me, kind of like just love the diversity. I love the experience. And that's why I love the school, because I had a chance to meet so many people that were from all over the world. But my story basically began, I was born in Eastern Europe. So in the Ukraine, to be exact, in the second largest city in the Ukraine. So it was really, luck and privilege to grow up in Europe, for sure, because surrounded by all this art and culture was just a treat. So in fact, like my earliest childhood memory, one of the earliest ones, are associated with like museum visits, and where my neck is hurting from looking up for hours and hours. So definitely, our city is a large city. It's 2 million plus people. So it has a ton of universities, ton of museums and theaters, and just kind of galleries all over the city. So I love that. And just being spontaneous and kind of walking into any pretty much gallery and just getting so much inspiration. And just walking on streets, just you get inspiration just running into some unique building or unique place that you can definitely like learn something from and kind of get inspired. So then when I was like 20 years old, I had moved to the United States. And again, going back to Ukraine, I had started like art very, very early on. As pretty much like, as I remember, my first art class when I was like 3 years old. So pretty much like then I continued into art school and followed up by university that I finished there with honors. And but my degree was in fine arts, so I was a fine artist, and that was an amazing experience that I used at Academy of Art on daily basis, because we learned everything from composition to sketching to painting. Oil on canvas is my favorite medium, and I still continue to paint. So some of the art pieces are behind me, actually done by me. So basically, when I moved to the United States, I had worked for some period of time in photography studio, and I really loved that. I did some candid photography and really enjoyed it. But after a certain period of time working there for about 4.5 years, I was kind of the point where I'm like, what's next? So because I love to develop, I love to grow. So for me, it was kind of like, okay. But at the same time, I'm a very practical person too. So that brings me to interior architecture and design, because being a fine artist, as much as I love it, but the downside of it, you can't kind of survive on show to show. So it's kind of like, well, there could be a big sale and you can, present your solo show and you can sell all the pieces, or you can sell none. So like that kind of practical part of me is just kind of, okay, fine artist is probably like too risque at this point, but I can relate to John with mathematics. Like I was like, okay, well, architecture is maybe like I'm pushing too hard, too many numbers. Just so I was kind of was okay. Interior architecture design is the way to go. So in fact, when I found Academy of Art, it was the only program, the only university that had offered the program that I was looking for, because I was looking for a graduate degree in interior architecture and design. And they're actually amazingly welcoming. So it was like, I believe I kind of dialed 800 number, and whoever was on the phone was just like absolutely inviting, welcoming, and send me a whole bunch of information, how I can apply. In fact, it was pretty kind of, I decided in the summer, and I was like, okay, how is it possible? So when I contacted some of the UC systems, and they're like, oh, you already missed this year, you have to wait until the following. And when I had contacted the Academy of Art, they're like, oh, absolutely, you have like 2.5 more months, and you can prepare a portfolio. If you have some work, please bring it in, and would love to see it. So it was very welcoming experience. And here I am, many years. I graduated in 2009 with, a graduate degree with honors, so it was, great experience. Absolutely.
That's great. So, Antonio, how did you get your first job then in design?
So I was in Hyatt. My first work after being a trainee was actually doing events. So I was lucky enough right in the beginning to start doing flowers and being involved in design, although it was event design. So, and from there, I went into the corporate office, always in Hyatt, but kind of like on a development aspect of food and beverage, of restaurant business, right? So when I left and went back to school, I really thought that I wanted to work for a designer. I was graduating from the school, and I said, I want to be in San Francisco. I want to work for a designer. I made my list, and there was 3 people that I really wanted to work for. I sent letters and CVs to all of them. No, none of them hired me. So I'm like, okay, next step, through the academy. So there is someone that is very dear to me at the academy, and she said, oh, check this gentleman who will remain nameless. And I went to work for him. So through the academy, I got a job with him, and I worked with him for about a month. And then I realized that we are all crazy in this industry, which we are. And instead of being screamed at, I decided to scream at myself in the mirror and open my own business in 2005. But going a little bit back to my first job at hotels is I just wanted to work at Hyatt. And then I sent back then was a letter to every single hotel, right, from Hyatt. And I got 4 replies. And when interviewed, they said, so what about if we don't hire you? And I said, I'll write all the letters again. Which the message is, if you really want to work for someone, go for it. Harass the person, not harass, but, go after what you want and you will get a job. Unfortunately, there's 3 designers in San Francisco that I wanted to. Back then, either I was too young or whatever, they didn't have. But if you really have a company that you appreciate, you want to work for Yori or for John or for Antonio, go after, go to an event, meet them, or go send an email, drop in the office, go after the job you want.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So John, how did you get your first job?
Well, I am a huge proponent in manifesting your ideal outcome. And I remember walking to the restaurant and walking a class and walking by this beautiful office on the corner of Mission and Second. And I kept thinking to myself, one of these days I want to work there. And it's funny enough, when I was working in the restaurant, turned out that one of the regulars, because it was 2 blocks away from the restaurant that I was working at, would come in every Tuesday at lunch, have 9 martinis and 9 glasses of Chardonnay with his office manager. And I never actually put it together until I saw his credit card. So I was serving him one day, and I swiped the credit card. I'm like, oh my God, you are. And I just flat out said, I am a student at the Academy of Art. I don't have an internship, and I would love to start working for you. He's like, we don't take interns. I'm so sorry. But the office manager on the way out, because he was, after the 9 martinis, was like, we'll find out something for you, because he knew me and they would come in regularly, and he knew that I showed a desire. So I came in, I talked to them, I showed them my portfolio of the work that I was working on, just the office manager, not the principal. And he said, well, we don't really have any space for you. What do you want to do? What would you do for us? And I said, I would rather answer the phones for you if you have nothing else for me to do than continue to work in a job that doesn't benefit my outcome. And so I was the assistant, not the receptionist, but I was the assistant to the receptionist. And I would sit there and answer phones for the receptionist so that the receptionist can go and do other tasks. And then I would distribute. This was way back when we had things called faxes. So I would receive the faxes, timestamp them, and then bring them to the person, because this was before email even. I'd bring them to the desk, and then they'd look at the fax and they'd say, okay, well, then fax this back. And that's what I would do. And being able to pick up the phone and start to hear contractors and architects and clients call, and just sort of enmeshing myself into that kind of environment, and then reading the faxes and trying to understand what an RFI was and an SK. All of that was like, apart from what I learned from school, that was like by far the best experience that I had. And being able to serve someone 9 martinis and know that, oh, you're the office that I walk by all the time. I want to work for you. I don't even know what you do, but get me in there and I'll figure it out. So.
And how long did you stay at that job? How long did you stay at that job?
I started as an assistant receptionist, and after 3 years, I became a junior designer. Mm-hmm. And they did banks and law offices and private offices for equity firms, and it was really not very exciting stuff. But for some reason, they gave me all the FF&E to do, and I would pick all the beautiful antiques, because at the time, those kinds of offices would want English antiques and beautiful silk curtains. And so I got I was steeped in traditional design, but it was for corporate interiors. Mm-hmm. And then I was there for 3 years, and then I moved on to work for another very traditional design firm after that. And
mm-hmm. Great. So
23 years later, actually.
Here you are. So Yoy, what about you? Where did you start your own business right away out of school, or did you work for somebody else?
I was not, I did work for some, not as short as a month, but I did have a short-term experience with a firm. I would say within a year and a half, we started our own business. So I only worked for a firm for a year and a half, but during that time, year and a half, it was actually in healthcare. I was working for a firm that specialized in, has a UCSF, one of the major clients, and I was a good draftsman, not CAD. I graduated in 1992. When I graduated, I think the lab had 1 computer. Wow. When I was in school for 5 years, it's all hand drafting. And I was good at, being with having the fine art background, I was good in drawing. So renderings, drafting, hand drafting, I was really good at that. And so that's why they hired me. So I basically was drafting. So I really didn't have a lot of experience working for a design firm. So I kind of self-taught when Vernon and I met. He came from a bigger firm, so he had more experience. So I kind of followed his lead. So the first few years of our business, I really focused on architectural drawings, because I'm good at that. I'm good at, to this day, that's where I feel most comfortable. We do a lot of projects where it's decorating, it's furniture, art, accessories, but sitting down and drawing is my thing. To this day, it's like, put me in an office for 5 hours, I sit there and draft and draw. That's my comfort zone, and but of course, we diversify, and so our specialty or residential now, of course, but yeah, drafting is I still love drafting. I mean, I can hand draft all day long.
So this is a good time to ask you a question that I think people will want to know. I mean, Vernon Applegate is this wonderful man you're life partners as well as business partners. So which started first, and how has that worked out? Is that easy to go from one role to and have that all mixed where you're spending really all your time together? How does that work for your business?
You want to ask my therapist now?
It's on the line.
It's one of those things where I get asked all the time, and it's like in life where when it's right, it's right. We met as we on a dating service, and when I found out that he told me he's an interior designer, I'm like, oh, what are the chances of me being with an interior designer? But I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go out with him anyway, because networking, maybe he may know someone that introduced me to. So because I didn't think that idea of living with another designer, it would be a possibility, but it worked out. We obviously had to adjust a lot over the years, and over the years, 23 years, we kind of know who we are, what we're good at, what we want to do. So there's clear understanding, just like anything, like in business, there's clarity in how we operate, and there's a business aspect and there's a personal, and as best as we try not to have an emotion or a personal feeling anytime we have discussion, it's all about trying to keep it as professional as possible, and that's how it helped work. And of course, communication, all come down to communication, right? And we also have different strengths. I think that what makes it work, because if we both like to do the same thing, and I think that would be a hard thing, but like our personal and business is like, I love to cook. He doesn't like to get in the kitchen. He likes to do handyman stuff around the house, which I don't like, anything with screws and machines and, equipment, forget it. But in the kitchen, I'm very comfortable. So same thing, it's same application, right? We have different strengths, so if once we figure that out, day by day, we figure it out. So 23 years later, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that this communication is important in every single part of your life. And so as a designer, I think those designers who have the most clients that are satisfied all the time are the designers who are able to really communicate, not just their ideas, but in every aspect of the business. So we expect your marriage to last forever. Yes. Did you have a mentor when you were starting out? Do you think mentoring is important?
Absolutely. At that time, Mr. David Davis was the was it Shirley Goldberg? The director was Mr. David Davis, and then shortly after was Shirley Goldberg. And what's interesting, years later, Shirley Goldberg worked for a wood flooring company in San Francisco, and then we became friends. But Shirley and Mr. David Davis was my mentor. One of my teacher, I wish I'm blanked out. Oh gosh, will come to me later.
Yeah, you can butt in anytime and tell
okay. All right, but yes, Mr. David Davis and Shirley Goldberg.
Okay. What about you, Lena? Did you have mentoring along the way?
I would say, my experience at the Academy of Art, I felt like every single professor was the mentor, because I felt that the ones that I had at the years when I was at the school, everyone was just very passionate about what they did. The amazing thing that they were all working professionals, like practicing professionals, right. And just being like literally hearing even the assignments that they were assigning, they were all taken from real life. The challenges that we're addressing with the projects were, just real life based. So we had to kind of like challenge ourselves in that way. So I would say, like, I wouldn't point out necessarily one person per se, but I would say everyone has contributed greatly in their own ways. So I'm grateful for the experience I had, for sure. But basically when I graduated, it was tough year to graduate. So it was 2009. So everybody was laying people off, like especially designers. Right. So it was kind of the age of like, people are just spending the funds on the needs, not the wants. And as we know, design is a want industry. And that's where I can relate to Antonio, because I actually did go into event industry because that seemed to flourish. So I worked for a company that did lighting for special events. And I was able to apply my skills and kind of learn a lot of technical aspects about the lighting, which came in handy later on when I started doing interior architecture and design. And I worked there actually for a good amount of time, almost a year. And then, but I always kept my eyes open for the design related work, like the one that I studied for. So the first opportunity that had opened up was at Forrest Perkins, and that's the company that I believe doesn't exist even anymore. They kind of joined with Perkins and Will. But I worked there. I kind of just walked in and basically said, like, you know, I would love to have some design related experience. I heard, you know, person through networking that you might need somebody as a kind of junior position. So I was like, I'll take it, you know. And they were like, you know, actually, believe it or not, but we do have, you know, an opportunity for someone to kind of join in. So I did that, and I did not for too long, because my heart was ultimately in residential, high-end residential design. And that's where, again, through networking, I had found out that there is a position for a junior designer at Nicole Hollis. And so pretty much like interview, everything kind of went very, very fast. There was a huge deadline that had to be met. So it was a CD set for Hawaiian project. And pretty much I kind of like gave my 2 weeks notice, and pretty much after 2 weeks, I kind of stepped in from one deadline to another, and pretty much never left since. So it's been, this year marks my 10-year anniversary at Nicole's. And it's a big year, because this year we had joined AD Top 100 and First Dips, one of 50 designers, the top world designers. So it's kind of marks many anniversaries at this company, and starting from the junior position and working my way up through all the projects, all the experience. And now I'm senior designer on interior architecture and FF&E side, so furniture. So I do both at the company.
Well, as we all know, if you're going to be in design, you have to get used to working on deadlines, because you're getting it from showrooms.
Oh yeah.
You know, deadlines is the name of the game. So, so John, do you mentor? Have you been a mentor to, not necessarily just from the academy, but have you mentored young designers along the way?
Oh, I take it very seriously. I do love, because when I was in school and I had so many influences that helped me, I take it very seriously to make sure that I try to hire an intern every semester, and I try to make sure that I pay close attention to what they're doing and help them and impart some sort of knowledge that'll help them grow as a person in this industry and as they start their careers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough to work for Pamela Babby at Babby Moulton, and that is a training ground for young people. And there really is, there's systems, and they work like a ship. And being able to work for them for 4 years was a treat, because you really saw how they groom people into.
Yeah, they have a huge staff too, don't they? They really do. Antonio, I know you take interns from the school. You take graduates, so that's all part of your plan, I think, isn't it? Giving back.
And I think throughout your life, you will see you have mentors in many different ways. And I was very lucky, still in the hotel business, that the F&B manager of the Grand Hyatt Hong Kong was this Dutchman with superb style, and I think he saw in me, this little Portuguese Brazilian guy, but he saw that there was something, and he really taught me. And now I understand, especially in our business, you can teach people to draw, you can teach people to expedite, but there is one thing that's only mentoring that will help you, which is getting a sensibility, a taste, because really no school will do it. They give you the base, but only life experience will do. So it's when you mentor. And this gentleman back in Hong Kong in the 90s, he was incredible. He had such an amazing taste, and he let me see that, and he taught me. And I believe that with taste, either you have that little seed or you have zero, but if you have that little seed, you learn. it's a part of knowledge. So whenever we get an intern or people who work, I'm like so amazingly proud when people leave and I see that in their new business, they are doing something that we did. I'm sure people who work for Applegate Trend, they will do the colorful, fun interiors. Or if you work for Nicole Hollis,
Right.
that's what also mentorship and learning.
Yeah.
You are teaching them the non-technical parts of our business that only mentoring and the life experience can really teach you.
I see this now that because of the job that I have doing this with the university, it's so rewarding to know that so many people who go to the spring show and see the students work, that they want to give them a chance. They want to give them a start because it's so hard, that very first job. So Yoy, have you hired any students who have graduated? Has that been something that you have found easy to do? I don't even really know exactly how large your staff is.
I just remember who one of my other mentors,
Okay.
Guy McGinnis.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
Yeah. So to answer your question, no, I love to mentor. I actually taught the academy for I think 4 semesters, a kitchen design class, and at some point I had to stop because I just couldn't. I remember one day driving to class. I'm like, okay, well, oh my gosh, what's my syllabus today? What am I going? It's like, and I realized I just didn't have the time to teach anymore. So I stopped. And that was like 5 years ago. But I hired actually, gosh, I don't know, at least 12, 15 from the academy over the years as interns, and 3 of them have actually worked for me full time. Actually, one of them, Tuan, is still working for me. Tuan Cao, he graduated, I think, 6 years ago. And I like to, I love to mentor because as Antonio said, that there's technical skills, but there's also, when I interviewed, the technical skills get their foot in the door. But then there's the like you said, talk about communications, you talk about the interaction, their personalities, their character, all of that come into, that also is an important factor for me. And so the technical is one thing, but so to answer your question, where am I? I love to mentor, and because I feel like I got a lot with mentorship through the three people that I mentioned, and I think it's good to give back. And hiring students at a young age, you can mold them as well. So that's my answer.
Yeah. Well, so
Sorry,
I just got a student question come up, and the question was, does anyone hire virtual interns?
Huh.
Have you had any requests for that, or what are your thoughts on that? Anybody? No?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Well, hopefully that will be far in the past shortly of that necessity. But I think there's a whole lot of students who are eager to learn, and maybe that is exactly that thought.
Okay, recently we did hire, about 4 months ago, I did hire a draft person that's getting her license in architecture, to becoming a licensed architect. And to this day, I have not met her. She worked on a project for me for 4 months, did a whole set of working drawings, a set of construction documents that I submitted to the city of Napa, and we have not met. In that case, she has experience. I think a student is a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging, but I think the working remotely is probably, through COVID, that we've somehow, some way, that's going to be the new trend.
I will
I
say,
also would like to add, I just think that I feel in person, the intern will benefit a lot more.
Yes.
It's just absolutely, with COVID, we all adjusted and we work remotely. I just think like touching those samples, putting the palettes together, seeing how they're being organized. It's just something that like our profession is very tactile. So it's like if you have an opportunity to go to the site, to go with somebody who is more senior than you are and learn from them, that's ultimately the experience gain that you're looking for if you're looking for this profession in the long term.
100% for sure.
Yeah, that's what you were going to say too, John.
Well, I was going to say, especially in the last year and the adjustments that we've had to make working apart. I mean, I have a studio with 16 people working together, and it really kind of strengthened the vigor of our design. It's a relationship-based industry, and we have a relationship with our clients. We have a relationship with each other in a studio. We also have a relationship with the design. And when we're not cross-pollinating ideas and we're not touching the fabrics and looking what it looks like with the paint and grabbing the wood sample for the floor and being able to all look at it together, it kind of, I will say, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but for the last year, it's made our project suffer a little bit and made them take a little bit longer. And sometimes there's some surprises when we were installing, because it's like, oh, I didn't realize that you had approved that because you approved it from your house 5 miles away, and I never actually got to touch that sample, sort of thing. And it's like,
right.
That's why, especially when you're coming out of school or you're still in school and you want to learn, you need to be next to that mentor that you hear and you see and you touch, and you understand how to have that relationship with design and have that relationship with your own career, because it's about people in the end.
Yeah.
So, it's been hard for sure.
On the other hand, I totally agree with it overall, but I also think things are changing.
Yeah.
Not only the
100%,
pandemic,
yeah.
but the generations are changing. So if you look at First Dibs, when Michael Bruno originally did First Dibs, 20 years ago, everyone was like, oh my God, you are so crazy. Who will ever buy antiques on the internet? Look what happened, right? And I give a very specific example. We were doing this house in Tahoe with one of my staff, young girl, very talented. Her name is Erin. And she did the whole project in the office. She was in the office, but I would say, Erin, can you go to the design center and get ABC? She would, half an hour later, I'm like, Erin, oh, I already ordered, right? It's going to be here in half an hour. She would be able to put everything digitally. And I went to the installation with her and I was like, oh my God, this will be a mess. It was immaculate, because I also think this new generation has a capability that we do not have, right? We live, I love to touch cashmere and chatouche and give me the best mohair in the world. This generation is different. They, I don't know how, don't ask me how, they are able to see things in a different way. Ultimately, I agree, we need to be in the office together, we need to exchange. However, there is these other factors that and it's not because of the pandemic, it's a new generation. And I really believe that sooner or later, maybe in 10 years or 15, the design center will either not exist or be really tiny in San Francisco, because that's just how it is. People will look at things virtual and will be able to import a table lamp into their 3D and look at it. Of course, we all want to see, but just keep that in mind that the
you're absolutely right, Antonio. I mean, I was one of those who said, I'll never go on First Dibs. That was 30 years ago, actually. So I'm aging you too. It was 30 years ago. Michael Bruno was here and trying to sell this idea to people, this wild idea he had of selling antiques on the internet. And I thought, well, I have to sit in it. I have to feel it. And it's not that way anymore. So you're right. And plus the schools, all of the design schools across the nation, I'm sure they're probably teaching the same way the Academy of Art is. And that is that it can be done online. It can, it's all, I mean, whereas we had to hand draw, they use CAD and umpteen other resources for it. So I think there's always going to be a place for people with extraordinarily good taste to love design, but it's going to be harder and harder if you don't have the foundation that these young people are having coming out of school. And I'm a dinosaur, so to hear me say that, you know, I've come to believe it. Changing the subject a little bit, and I don't want to stay on this a long time, but, you know, we've been talking a lot, or hearing a lot about diversity or lack of diversity in hiring. Have any of you felt that in our field, either in hiring or obtaining employees? Have you had that issue at all? Any of you? Nothing?
What was the question again, Kay?
The problem, you know, that diversity is so big right now. We've been doing these programs even in the schools on diversity. I personally have never felt that as a woman in my field, but is that anything that we need to concern ourselves with in our community of design? Do you run into that?
I mean, you always run into that in any industry, in any part of the world, in any, you know, maybe we have less for certain categories, more for others, but, you know,
Yeah.
we cannot hide underneath the table and say that it doesn't exist, because it exists. But,
Right.
and we live in a little bubble called San Francisco, but
That's true.
you know, I think in a way we are very open, you know, especially, you know, with women is very different because 90% of the business is women, right? And then the other 10% that are male are gay. So it's kind of
gay men.
what can we say?
Yeah. Well, I do believe we live in a bubble in San Francisco, but my comment on this was, you know, do you run into I didn't as a woman, I don't know, Linda, you can speak to this, going into the home of potential clients and saying, well, I was thinking more of a man coming in, or I just never had that experience. And so I just thought I was sure that students would want to know about this if it is prevalent in our world. And I agree with you, Antonio, in every world it's going on, but I don't think it's a real prevalent thing. I think, but maybe it's because we live in a bubble in San Francisco, just to that. So.
And just to add to that, I mean, speaking from, you know, woman perspective, from like women with an accent and etc. You know, I mean, ultimately work and your performance speaks for itself at the end of the day. You might get the look because, I mean, like when I do interior architecture and design, of course, I go into construction sites and most of the time I'm like the only woman there. I would say 99% of the time. And, you know, sometimes they're like, well, you know, they kind of, you know, don't really take you seriously. And then you start bringing up like really good points. You show your drawings, you let the work speak for itself. Don't get intimidated. Just kind of just present what you got. And, you know, to be honest with you, at the end of the site visit, like a first site visit, everybody treats you with respect. So it like literally, and by end of the job, then that's like kind of just let it, just do your thing. Do the best you can, like, you know, be the best person you can, no matter, don't let anything stop you, kind of like just be yourself and, you know, let the speak, you know, your work, your hard work speak for itself.
Yeah. So I have another question from a student, and it is, as how does one demonstrate taste as a junior designer without being considered obnoxious, while also letting them know you have to absorb the taste of the firm and the principles in your work? I'm a little confused by the question a little bit. I think they're asking, they don't want to be obnoxious, but they want to show you that they have a point of view. That probably is what this is all about.
Wait for us to ask for it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wait for you to ask for it. Okay.
Yeah, and I think a little bit depends on the firm and your boss, right?
Sure, yeah.
Mm.
No, but seriously, I think what Lena said was true. Work hard,
Mhm.
effort into it, put passion into it, and it will shine through in whatever you're doing.
Right.
Absolutely. And
So do you have any interviewing tips for someone looking for work?
Please know how to shake a hand.
yeah, that's important for sure.
I know, I came from the corporate world and I had to share this office with someone else, and we did interviews for food and beverage employees, right? My interviews were always 5 minutes, and Robert's interviews were 45 minutes, right? And then he was like, and I learned that you decide if you are going to hire someone in the first 5 minutes, basically.
Mhm.
The rest 40, it's blah, blah so it's how you shake a hand, how you come dressed, and how you have your portfolio. The rest, sometimes you see someone that is like, has a horrible portfolio, but you see something on the person, right? And you will hire, I decide if I'm going to hire someone in the first 5 minutes. And it's that handshake, that presentation. I had students from the academy that came in like all in Chanel and boots and like mini skirt. And I was like, okay, I love Chanel, but probably not appropriate. Or someone who comes with the handshake that is like maybe not. So it's really kind of like that. And how you show that you want a job. And that's my thing.
Well,
Go
ahead.
I'm
You
gonna
go
give a tip. For me, it's like, when I get a resume or when I get an email, the first impression obviously is very important, but there's certain key things that I suggest that the student would do is to do research on the company. If they're going to send me an email, they should address to me, dear Yoy, hello Yoy, versus to whom it may concern, or hello. I'm like, right? And so, if I get a cover letter that basically looks like it's sent out to the masses. So it personalize it, because if you want to work for a firm, find out about that firm, find out about what they do, who are the principals. If you're going to send an email to me, addressed to me, not addressed to whom it may concern, because then I feel like, okay, that email probably sent to Antonio, John, right? So personalize it. That will get my attention. The minute I see to whom it may concern, hello, that's first. It's the second thing is, when you interview, once you find out the firm, like, talk about what you can do for me. Not talk about, oh, I need a job, I just graduated, I'm looking for an internship, I need to make money. It's like, what can you do for me, right? What skill, what asset you have to offer me, versus what your needs are. So those are two key things that will get you foot in the door. Those are two things that would shut the door. Done. I'm not like Antonia, done. First 5 minutes, I get that. Resume, delete, because we get many. And so what pop out is, oh, hi, Yoy, I met you, 2 years ago, or I read about you, or, do something, like personalize it rather than to whom it may concern. So those are two key things to me.
So crucial.
Yeah.
John, do you agree with that too?
Absolutely. I always look for a good, clean resume. And it doesn't necessarily have to say I've worked at all these other places that are design related. I look for a diversity of experience, because work ethic is really important to me. So people who've worked in the service industry, in the hospitality industry, it's someone interesting. So do different things. Don't just go to school and then expect to get a great job. I look for a good, clean resume, no typos, one, maybe two fonts. When there's too many fonts, that turns me off. I'm also a little crazy. A clear, concise portfolio. It doesn't have to be 50 pages long. Actually, that's also somewhat of a turn off. If you could just show me 5 clear examples of your point of view and what you can do, that's important. And again, just displaying a passion for this industry, and wanting to learn and wanting to grow and wanting to contribute and that usually will come across in a good, nice email or a good handshake or just a professional outfit and a nice smile. So
yeah, it's interesting. I'm doing a workshop with one of the instructors in our department, and I've been enjoying it so much because it's a workshop about preparing them for their career, and I literally agonize over how they are agonizing over what's ahead of them and preparing their resume and their portfolio. And in this workshop that we're doing, we'll look at it and I can see how much time they're spending on it and how much thought, and do they add color? Do they change the fonts? Just all the things they want to be so prepared that it hurts me. It hurts me that they're doing that hard. So I think what you've just said is that while that is truly important, and don't mistake me, it is very important, but the important is their presence and how they approach you and how they shake your hand and how they look you in the eye. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I know we have a lot of students looking at this program, and this is going to help them more than you even know, to have the top designers exactly telling them what to do. It's very simple, what you're saying. It doesn't take and a brain surgeon to figure it out, but just hearing you say it will make a difference in them.
Can I also add, I'm part of the interview committee on at Nicole Hollis, of course, and obviously you guys speak for your own firms, but I can speak kind of to more of a larger firm type of situation. So I would definitely, I totally agree with you, because, and I'll tell you why. So many people, especially after, Nicole has become so known, and so many, we employ almost 100 people at this point. So basically, a lot of people kind of like seen the name, but never done the research. So I literally have the experience, and, I can't relate to handshake because a lot of the last year interviews been over Zoom. But I can tell you one thing. So I would ask a simple question: why Nicole Hollis? And they start giving me like a very vague answers, of like, well, I like her natural palette, but that could apply to any firm, And then I would say, okay, so have you looked at the website? Like, super simple question. And what project is your favorite? And that's when I literally lose a person, because they start telling me about some Napa residence. And I'm like, I know the website by heart. There's no Napa residence on the website currently. So I'm like, either you have looked at this website like a year ago and you haven't ultimately do your homework, basic homework, like we give you an Zoom invite, like at least a week or 2 weeks ahead of the interview. Like, Google that website, learn who is in charge, what Nicole is all about, like Nicole is part of so many panels and so many different publications. So simply just Google, and that will kind of show, because like we want somebody who is, really into the style, certain look, and Nicole does have that. So it's like, it's not like a person who is completely eclectic and all over the place and you don't know what the project is about. So basically do your homework, it's just like, just take your time, do the homework, and really be passionate why you want it to work. And I agree with all the, panelists that like ultimately show what you got, and show what you can offer. Like, what is that special thing about you? And it could be something completely like, you never know, somebody like, who's done something completely like a lighting design, or maybe they've done event design, or they think quick on their feet. We have people who've been nannies before and showed like super simple portfolio because they're like right out of the school, they like couldn't find a job and went to be a nanny. But that shows to us, you got patience, you are creative, And like with your portfolio and kind of like the look of the style, and those people actually like a year later we do a review and they're like amazing reward to a firm because they are quick on their feet. They learn fast. Like they got all the, software knowledge. They didn't have the practice, but once we showed them the way, they kind of figured it out very fast. And ultimately, great team addition. So
Yeah, that's
don't
great.
give up. Do your research,
I
Thank you.
think the last thing, just to add to what Lena is saying, that I think is the important thing is know why you are going there. The difference between a Nicole Hollis that has 100 employees, a Hirsch Bedner that has 500, a John that has 16, or me that has 6. It's very different companies. And why do you want? You want because you like hospitality. You go because you like residential. Your trajectory in any of these firms will be very different. So before you go to any interview, do a little soul searching. Is I want to do hospitals, I want to do hotels, I want to do houses. I want to work with 10 people, with 100 people, with 500 people. And really kind of, and if you want to go to all interviews, please do, but BS along the way. When you are in the hospitality, don't tell them, oh, I want to do residential, because we will find that you are lying.
You'll tear them apart.
Yes, so we'll tell you apart. So just every company is very different because of the work they do, how many people they do, and what is the work environment.
They just have to do their homework. That's good advice. We have another student question. It's, do you think that due to the pandemic, people will start giving more importance to residential interiors rather than commercial in the coming years? Do you have any thoughts on that?
John?
So I'm 50-50 commercial and residential, but all of last year has been all residential. So I wouldn't say that people are going to stop caring about commercial interiors. It's all coming back now. I'm sure Lana could speak to that. All of the hospitality projects are coming back and they're thawing and they're ready to go because people are going out again. And now that's why we are crazy busy, because we have all of this residential work that we have, and now all of our commercial work has come back. So I wouldn't say it's a seesaw. I would just say that there's plenty of work out there, and people now care a lot more about how they live in their homes and how they work in their homes. And that changed in the pandemic. So there's no wasted inch of space in anyone's house now. It's all being used for their Peloton and their Zoom room and a place to get away from their spouse or their child. And
Yeah, I think that's true. So how many of you do straight residential? Do any of you do straight residential? You all do a mixture of residential and commercial. There's always been a kind of this I think our school, the Academy of Art University, has prepared a lot of their students for the commercial field, because we have we have the architecture, we have graphic arts, we have many fields and departments in our school. But I think it's always interesting when you really can't make a decision what you prefer and how you decide you're going to follow that. How many of you think it's really important to have a classical importance to your work, to know the orders, to know about classical architecture and design, even though you're working on contemporary projects? Do you think that's important?
I do, for sure.
Yeah. Lena, you nodded your head yes too, as did Antonio.
Yes, definitely. I would say art history has to become one of your favorite topics because it's all in proportions. You can apply the proportions to anything, whether it's, you know, contemporary, classical, but it even literally you upholster a chair, you upholster an ottoman, and the proportion of that like lower shelf and upper. And I do a lot of custom furniture, and it's all about proportions and comfort. It's just, you know, you just have to know it, whether you know, first learn the rules and then break them, kind of, you know. But I would say you do have to know it, like, you know, just, you know, keep your eyes open, like visual information, and learn as much as you can.
And I think in this business there is very, very little genius. Genius people we can count on a hand in the world. All the other ones basically adapt, reinvent, get inspired by, etc., etc., etc. So you can see the most modern chair nowadays in a showroom, and you know that somehow is inspired on a Klismos chair that is the first form ever known for a chair. So it's all about the knowledge that we have. So it doesn't matter if you know Russian, it does matter if you know Russian, Japanese, or if you know the architecture of Japan or the architecture of Angkor Wat. Everything will come back sooner or later. So yes, there is Frank Gehry and Zaha Hadid that are maybe geniuses and create things which are actually reinterpreted out of a form of a shell or a you know, a sea creature. But without the knowledge, you know, just a white box, even the white box is probably created based on some kind of classical equation, right? So
Forgive me,
the more you
I'm
know,
having,
the better it is.
talk amongst yourselves for 1 second. I am all of a sudden running out of battery here. I can't believe it.
I see some of the student questions come in. Do you guys see them? Would you like to address any of them while we're waiting for Kate?
Yeah, so someone actually wrote, if a designer is planning to start their own firm, would you do it alone or with someone else, right? And that's, Yoy has answered the question before.
How much money do you
I think partnerships are very challenging.
Right.
I mean, I think whether it's a personal or professional, you know, I've tried, even Vernon and I have tried different partnerships over the years, and it never worked out, just because just a combination of things. But I think it's very challenging to have a business. I mean, I think you don't start out looking for a partner in a business. You have someone that you trust and you're connected, then you start a business together. But to go out and look for a partner because you want to have a second person to be a partner, I think that's a very challenging. I think it takes years. So Vernon and I, we have a very strong connection personally. And then when we brought in other partners over the years, it never worked out, because it's like in business you have to have a different connection before the business come into play. You know, it's just, and even if you have a friend that you've known over the years, which we did, brought her into the business, it didn't work out. And so I think partnerships are very, very challenging, very difficult. I mean, it's just the right combination. And it's a combination that you can't like write down and you can't figure it out. It just happens. It does or it doesn't, you know. But I think, I don't know that answer your question. I think it's just a very hard thing to do, you know.
Yeah, I agree. So
being creative people, you know.
Along with that is, you know, going to work for large firms. I think a lot of people thrive in smaller firms with more personal relationships versus working in a large firm. Also, you know, there are a lot of firms out there that deal with quote unquote the celebrity clients, either because they consider themselves a celebrity designer or that their clients are wealthy people and demand special treatment. I know you've all certainly had celebrity clients, and some of you have worked for celebrity firms. So what do you think about that? I mean, my question becomes, I think when you're young and you're idealistic, that's kind of where you want to gravitate, right? You want to go where the flash and dash is. But as far as a long range view for a designer coming out of school, what do you think about that? Would you want to be in a firm that has lots of techs and titans of industry, and you have to sign non-disclosures and be photographed in magazines all the time? Or do you think it's a different view when you actually are working in that firm?
Well, fortunately in our industry, there's a lot of work for everyone. And once you start your path, it'll make its way, and you'll find what you like to do. Fortunately, I've worked for big firms and small firms, and that sort of celebrity sparkle that you're talking about sort of fades after a while, and I got tired of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think what John said is the best thing, because
Yeah, it
there's
was.
work for everyone. That's the main thing. So, you may look at it, oh my God, I'm so sad because Nicole Hollis is getting all this work. And it's like, the funny thing is that we always go normally to the interviews that the same people go, right? So It's kind of like, are they getting the work? There is work for everyone. We are so lucky here. So, there is people who need the fluffy designer.
Right.
Great. It's probably not me. There is some people who like the jet set designer. It's not me. Some people like the international that speaks with an accent. I'm here, right? So just work hard, and there is, if you work hard, there is work for everyone. And don't compare yourself with anyone else, because you are not Joy, you are not Lena, John, or Antonio.
I hope not.
Yeah.
There's
So
work.
It goes a long way for us.
yeah, let me just ask you a question that's kind of different. Who's your favorite architect, and who's your favorite interior designer? Can be present, past. Who's your favorite?
Antonio.
Who inspires you?
Antonio.
He's mine too.
I mean, coming from Asia, I'll answer first. Like, there is a gentleman, he just passed away last year. His name is Ed Tato. He did all the Aman hotels.
Aman, yeah, beautiful.
He started, actually, he's from Texas. His first job was in Gumps in San Francisco, when Gumps had a design thing. Yeah. And then he went to Hong Kong and worked for Pat Keller, the best of the best of
Park Hyatt in Paris, one of my.
He did so that's where I worked with him, was for the Park Hyatt in Place Vendôme. And then, very few people know about him. And we were having a press conference in Paris for the Park Hyatt, and someone said to the PR person, "Oh, why doesn't people know about Ed Tato? It's not a name that is," and the answer was, it's because he doesn't work for the rich and famous. He works for the very, very rich who hate to be famous. And I took that line for me.
Sure.
Appropriate to our last conversation then. Lena, what about you? Do you have a favorite architect?
Yes, I mean, I love Peter Marino, just because I know a little bit of the inside from my sister, who is an architect and who worked there. Just attention to detail, all the openness to completely new materials that never been done before, not being afraid of color, texture, and just being bold and just really, really pushing the boundaries of design. So another person that comes to me is a fellow Portuguese designer that we had an opportunity to work with on one of our NDA projects, and his name is Rui Ribeiro. So just how much he cares. Like he would come in, he's based in Portugal, but he was kind of assisting us in the beginning of this project. And he would literally, we would come in and like, who set off the alarm? He would come in at like 5 a.m., whether it's a jet lag or passion for design, I'm not sure what it was, but he was literally putting all the, like going through a library, putting all the palettes together himself. And just completely inspired by a person as a human being, and just as a designer, just completely a talent. So, and very living, both of them. So
Yeah, there you go.
God willing, many years more, yeah, to basically, just let us enjoy their design and creativity.
So Yoy, what about you?
Well, I admire a lot of my colleagues' work, including Antonio, John, Nicole Hollis, Matthew Leveron, Eshe Martinez. I mean, I flip through magazines, I go on their website because I feel like, I'm inspired by the local designers. I mean, being in design school, I had the big name designers over the years I admired, but I feel like I learned a lot from looking at the designers that are my colleagues, because I want to learn from what they're doing here in the Bay Area and in San Francisco. Of course, I read in national, international magazines, but I find the work of my colleagues are very inspiring. I mean, a lot of time I look at, oh my gosh, how can I do that project? Oh, how did they get that clients? Or I want to do that kind of project, because and to some degree, we all kind of not get stuck, but we always want to look for new challenges, right? And a lot of time we want to do something new and different, right? And seeing work that are, commercial work or more edgy, and sometimes, oh, I wish I would, do something more edgy or something more, classical, and because you want to like grow as a designer. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in business and how many years you've been practicing. You're always looking for, but what inspires me is more local designers for me, So yes.
Mm-hmm. John, did you want to contribute anything there?
Well, I mean, depends on what time of day it is and how much wine I've had. Because I pull a lot of references from a lot of different influences, and David Hicks, John Dickinson, Parrish Hadley. I'm convinced I was an old lady in a previous life.
I love it.
Having those classic New York apartments. Sister Parrish, I said that already. Billy Baldwin, Billy Haynes. You mentioned Francis Elkins earlier. Yeah, but part of my OCD is that I love to collect books and just look through all the different monographs of all the different architects and designers that have come before us. And
yeah, that's true. So I was going to ask another question, but I have to answer this briefly. This is from a student. How do you end professional relationships with employees and business partners that don't work out?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. That's it. Goodbye.
Once you learn how to say no, it doesn't stop. But yeah, getting to that point is very difficult for sure, because
it is. It's hard. It's hard. For me, it's really hard because I don't like confrontation in any way. So for me, that kind of thing would be very, very difficult. I think it's probably less hard the older you get, but for young designers, that's got to be kind of hard.
Because everything you do is part of your learning experience and helps shaping you to be, a better designer.
And a part being in
life as well, just being able to say no to things that aren't working for you or with you is a gift and a skill that you earn and learn at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be advice to be in this business, you have to have tough skin. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I remember, I cried when I designed this little bus station for a restaurant for when I was working for this firm, and I made it. When they install it, it was not high enough to put in a bus tray, and the senior designer looked at me, and I remember doing that drawing. I was at 9 or 6 inches or 8 or I don't know. So I mean, it's like at the job site, I was gonna cry. Because you think, oh my gosh, it's like the world's going to end. Because what? Mistakes happen and you learn from it. but you have to have tough skin. You have to have tough skin, because even when you have your design firm, I have clients who will yell at me. It's like, you know, and it doesn't matter how long I've been in business, doesn't matter how successful I am. The clients that they're going to yell at me. They're going to send me an email. At midnight, I'm reading it. I'm like, my gosh, and I'm tossing and turning. Okay, I shouldn't have read this email before I go to bed. You know, so like, don't read your email before you go. So, but you know, so you have to have tough skin, and because it doesn't matter. Like I you know, remember Jeffrey, right? Jeffrey D'Souza. We talked about his party, and I spent the weekend with him, and we had this conversation this year and a half ago, and we talked about, you know, what we accomplished and how. And he said, you know, at the end of the day, we still the servants, you know, to our clients. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, you're right. You know, end of the day, it doesn't matter how successful we are in our own right. And we have staff, we're in charge with our business, but guess what? We still work for our clients. End of the day, you know, you have to have tough skins. It's like, start now. You know, it's never going to go away. You're always going to feel like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? What did I, you know, how can I fix this? And, you know, it's like, you know, and when you have your own business, like, you care about your clients. You want to make sure everything's perfect, but, you know, there's not many things are going to go wrong, and you just, you know, and you're going to get yelled at. And to this day, we still get yelled at, right? I'm sure, right? All of you.
Well, our job is making people happy, and if they're not happy, then oftentimes that's what happens.
But you have to have tough skin. I mean, it's in this business.
I know.
Right?
Sometimes it's worse when they're not yelling at you. Just when they're calm and they're disappointed.
Oh, that's even like gut right here.
Yeah, I know. It's like when your father does it to you, the same thing. It's like when they quietly, you expect he's going to be furious at you, and instead he talks to you, and then you want to cry because you feel worse. So I'm down to my last couple questions because we have a stop at 6 o'clock. But do any of you have design projects that you can say changed your life?
Can it be
anybody? Antonio, what about you?
I think, you know, if it could count.
Maybe we change that maybe we change that question to didn't necessarily change your life, but maybe changed your life in connection with your career. Like, I'm thinking maybe of your show house. Yeah. I mean, when you did that show house, all the designers.
The master bedroom?
Yeah.
So I think for me, for example, the showcase, I did not want to do the showcase for many, many years because I said that they all do it. I don't care how much it will cost. I don't care how much time I spend. So I waited 10 years to do the showcase. And when I did the showcase in 2004, I did first 2003 and I really loved it. And then in 2004 was something that, you know, I didn't care if, of course, ultimately we all want to get jobs, but that year for me was so much more, was really about just, we are our own clients in the showcase. So it was about doing something too extreme, doing something that I wanted, that I loved it, that I would be proud of. So I didn't really care much of what people would think, but it was something that it had so much meaning. And ultimately, I didn't get a single client out of it, but I probably got $10 million in advertising money that I know that there were other jobs that came 5 or 6 years later that people still refer. So, you know, for me, it was a project that I was able to put all my heart and all my passion, and, you know, was about my family and really achieving the ultimate goal for me. And it was really beautiful for me. Some people hate it, some loved it, but it had a meaning, because we are always, I agree with you, we are servants, basically, right? If someone wants a purple sofa, I may say it will not look good, but if they want, I'll do it. Our own houses is the only place that we are the bosses. And for me, was the showcase. I don't care what the owner of the house in the showcase says, I do what I want. So it's a very special thing to do the showcase and our houses, as you can
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was a special room. I mean, it brought in your childhood, it brought in your life in Portugal, it brought in your family bed. I mean, it was really a personal room. And I think as the result of it is it touched everybody. Your last show house, I think was the one you did down in the basement.
The ballroom.
It was the ballroom. It was spectacular. Do you enjoy?
Technically, last showcase was 2020, which is live room that was only virtual, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was the virtual one.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
I'm
ballroom, we had a lot of fun.
Uh-huh. Have you had a lot of feedback on that?
Oh my gosh, like Antonio, I think to this day, I mean, I would go to events and then some realtors say, oh, this is Joy Tran, he's Applegate Tran. Oh, by the way, he did the ballroom. Like I constantly get this reaction. Oh, you did the ballroom? Oh my gosh, you did the ballroom? And I still get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. I think forever many years, like Antonio, where there's certain rooms that just, struck a chord. I think part of it, that room was a very challenging room. Most designers, like, they looked in and walked away. We did too. We went downstairs, peeked in, said, ran upstairs. Anyway, but the showcase house, convinced us to do it. But yes, somehow, that room just, I think it was a challenging room that I just put a lot of thoughts. My partner did the overall vision, but I executed it, and every thought, I was constantly going there, looking around every detail, every moment. And I think, like Antonio, where there's a connection. We've done many rooms over the years. I think we did 5 rooms over the years, but that room somehow connected because they're emotionally, there's a mental, like a strong connection that I felt that I go to sleep thinking about it, I wake up thinking about it, in every detail. And it's like, and I think that somehow resonated. But to answer your question, we got a lot of attention and to still continue. I think after COVID, I would still go to events. Somebody introduced me as the designer for the ballroom at the Le Petit Trianon. They said, "Oh my gosh, you're the designer." That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling.
It was brave, a room with no windows.
I know. We were the brave one.
I think we lost Kay.
Huh?
I think we lost Kay.
Last day?
Yeah.
I think.
Cassandra?
Hi, yeah, Kay got kicked off, but we're actually just about at our time anyway. So I really appreciate you all being here. And is there anything last that you want to say before we have to wrap this up? Hello?
I mean, ultimately, I would kind of say, like, advice maybe to students, just kind of as thank you for participating. If you're part of this, you must care and really wanted to continue. So best of luck on all the endeavors, of course. But as a suggestion, just kind of like while you're in school, I would say keep pushing the boundaries, be curious, learn as much as you can. Don't be afraid to go to design center. Don't be intimidated to kind of follow your dream, and just kind of like build your connections, but like real connections, not the networking 5 minutes with that person, 5 minutes with that person. Just kind of like find that something special that connects you with a certain firm or a certain, owner of the firm, or whoever is part of the team. Get involved with like volunteering, get involved with ASAD organization, IADA, wherever, like just get out there, and once the COVID is behind us, hopefully you'll have more opportunities for that. But that's kind of my, my 5 cents in the end. And feel free, you guys, to add anything you like.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
And thank you. You guys were fantastic. I loved hearing all your stories and your experience. And I know for a fact that our students enjoyed it too. So I want to thank you all for joining us. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. We do have that hard stop at 6, so we're going to have to cut it off. But thank you again all for joining. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
I apologize.